Hey guys, it's time to Nephis and chill, and in this video, well, I'll be reviewing what was said in the IGN interview with ZeniMax Online Studios director Matt Firor, and it was like almost an hour long. So I watched it, so you don't have to watch it. But if you're interested in watching it, the link to this video or interview will be down in the description below or in the comment section should you wish to. I'll kind of go over the main points here. So first 20 minutes or so, they were talking a lot about the past and Matt Firor's journey in game development. From the 1970s to the early 2000s, from arcade games to Dark Age of Camelot. I mean, he's very well known for Dark Age of Camelot, and he actually said a lot of things I didn't really know. Like the original World of Warcraft developer team actually played quite a bit of Dark Age of Camelot, and they took quite a bit of inspiration from that, or how they did it for World of Warcraft. And that's something I didn't really know, and that kind of just emphasized more, to me at least, because not a lot of gamers really know how small the game dev industry is, but it's very small even today. Or to the extent that everyone pretty much kind of knows everybody, whether you're working on God of War or whether you're working on ESO. But yeah, they also go into the rocky start ESO had in terms of financial risks they took. They had a very poor launch, and they attribute the success of ESO later on to not being canceled out or scrapped by their boss Robert Altman, who recently died. Um, yeah, he was basically the boss of Bethesda or ZeniMax Media, and he gave them a chance. And here's ESO. They also talked about Todd Howard having some influence behind the scenes, and what was really interesting to me, because they had the usual fluff about, oh, we have ESO coming to the next generation consoles, etc., etc. Because this is actually a very old interview. Not old, very old, but pretty old. June 15, 2021, so that was 4 months ago, almost exactly. And they talked a lot about the next generation console, but two things stuck out to me. Matt Firor basically said,
"You have to do it to keep up. Like the game right now wouldn't run on the base Xbox or the last generation base consoles. Like it wouldn't run unless we had done a lot of engine optimization and changes, because the game, it's just too big at this point. So it doesn't fit on those devices. It's so big just in memory. So at one point, we had to stop adding new animations to the game for 6 months because we would just run out of memory on those devices if we had. But they're a core part of our community, so we're going to support them. And so we did, and we re-architected memory and stream in a lot more stuff. And we introduced some bugs when we did that, which were very unfortunate, but we fixed them. But that's why we're doing that, is to keep the game relevant and looking fantastic, and doing things like the next gen version, which is coming out in June. Xbox on a PlayStation 4, or on the best gaming PC that you can buy, it's still the world of Tamriel. Now it looks better and more realistic on one than the other, but it still looks pretty fantastic on the on the 2014 era consoles. So that concept is important to us, that we don't create just for the high end machines, because community games like this can draw in people that don't have high end gaming PCs and don't have consoles and have laptops, and like college kids in dorm rooms. So it was important to us that ESO ran on a super forgiving range of hardware. And that decision that we made early on really, really helped us bridge the gap to console, because ESO wasn't going to come out on console when we first greenlit the project. But that idea made the engine scalable. And then because we did that and we kept making it scalable over the years for the newer PC tech, then when the new generation, the current gen, came out last year, we were very well primed to port a lot of those changes back into the console version. So it's more a philosophy of, we use the hardware you have, but we're not going to assume that you have it.
You talked about one of the sort of unintentional failings of Camelot and Mythic was that you had that creative spirit of figuring out as you went along.
with this revelation, the interviewer asks about a possible sequel for ESO, such as an ESO 2.
point. Like, I don't think it really has. Maybe you can name a better example. There have been a couple of attempts, but there haven't really been. I mean, EverQuest 2 never really got off the ground. EverQuest Next, and
well, it launched 2 weeks before WoW, so I think that was its.
yeah,
I think that had more to do with it than anything.
I mean, can sequels ever work in the online space? Would you even want to go there?
Well, it's like, when is Netflix 2 going to launch? Right? It's like we're a service, and we're a service that people log into every day and play, and like, as long as they're doing that, there's no reason to do a version 2. In fact, in many ways, Orsinium, which is the DLC we did back in 2015, that really was version 2, and then Morrowind was version 3, and then so every year we're just doing a new chapter update. But those chapters aren't just new content. There's also a lot of tech behind the scenes, which keeps it running and makes it relevant.
But yeah, as he says in that clip, it's really interesting that they just ran out of memory for console, so they just kind of decided to stop adding abilities or like new, I guess, mechanics or skill effects or anything really. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say here is this is really important because out of consideration for the things like laptops or I guess consoles in this case, they just have memory management issues, and that contribute to them not being able to do certain things. Because I know a lot of players request a lot of things like new classes, new weapon skill lines, more housing, furnishing slots. And this, I think, is not being fulfilled because of their memory management issues, or basically how the game works, or rather how they want the game to work, specifically on less powerful machines. So this was really, really, really insightful to me, because very rarely do we get a such a specific insight into how ESO works under the hood. We don't even know really how many active players there are every month exactly. Steam statistics are not indicative of everybody. They don't really release too many numbers publicly. So this was really interesting to hear from the man himself about specific things, and it just kind of made so much sense to me why there's like recycled bosses, recycled models, recycled mechanics, recycled skill effects. I mean, look at, what is it, Crystal Weapon for Sorc? That's basically the same thing as Ellie Weapon from the Sigil skill line. But it just made so much sense to me that I had to share it with you guys. And that's basically one of the truths behind how ESO is functioning, or how ESO is. We also do have another clip where he talks about the philosophy of ESO, which I also found interesting because that same philosophy continues to drive the game in a specific direction. I uploaded a different video kind of exploring how Zos responded to New World, and I found some insight from their their answers in that interview, as well, in regards to who they're focusing on as players, why they're focusing on those players, and potential, but also the lack of how they're gonna, basically gonna address some issues in the game.
I kill the rats. I go to the level 5 area, the 15 area, and when I'm level 50, I go back to the level 1 area, and there's nothing there for me to do because it's so easy, and I get no experience for it. So that was tried and true. And this is a way that this is why we don't really consider ESO to be an MMORPG anymore, because it doesn't have some of those things. What the problem that led to is that over time, more and more players came into the game, especially friends of people who were playing it. And those friends were already level 35, and their new friend shows up and he's level 1, and they can't play together. And that's crazy when you think about it. Like, that's such a player hostile design decision. And so, what I always say there is, like, just, when when I told the team we have to fix that, there was some pushback because that's a very traditional paradigm that all games in this genre have used. We still get flack for it from time to time. But my comeback to them was, we're about to go on console. Like, you play Grand Theft Auto, right? Do you care what level you are in GTA? Do you really? You just jump in and play and have fun. The game takes care of all that stuff behind the scenes. And so that's what we did. We took levels out of the world and made the player scale to the content. So that change came in 2016, and we called it One Tamriel. But that changed the game, because literally guilds who wanted to recruit lower level members, they couldn't play with their new recruits. But after One Tamriel, they could all play together. They could all go to the same areas and have dungeon runs together, or go and have an event in game where they weren't separated because they were different levels. Husbands could get their wives into the game for the first time and play with them, and it just made it a social game, where before it was social hostile, and after that it was very, very, very social. And the community in ESO is a little different from other traditional MMOs because of that, because new players are actually fun to hang out with, and you can play with them, you can adventure with them, and they can participate just like. So there's none of the I'm level 50 and you can't do anything because you're a newbie, right? And so it's just a different feeling game because of that.
And that's kind of really it for this video. Again, you can watch this entire interview if you want, but that's basically the main meat of it. And that's just kind of what I want to bring to your attention, because there's a lot of theories in the community amongst the ESO players why they're not adding a new class, why they're not adding more than 700 furnishing slots, why, in trials especially, we talk a lot about, oh man, this mechanic looks familiar, right? And this explains everything, basically. But yeah, thanks for Netflix and chilling, and stay safe, and see you guys next time.